Postpartum depression, also known as PPD, affects a huge amount of women in the United States. According to the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the prevalence of postpartum depression was just 9.4% in 2010 and increased to 19.3% in 2021. Zuranolone is a new drug that just became commercially available a few months ago, and it's the first pill designed to specifically treat PPD. Joining me is new mom Courtney Conley to talk about her experience with PPD and how she was able to pull herself out of it. Courtney, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your struggle with PPD and how you knew you had it originally.
So I do want to preface this by saying that with postpartum depression, there's also the anxiety and rage piece. So I didn't actually have the depression part. I had the rage and the anxiety. I am in the human service field, so I knew very well about the postpartum depression. And then I noticed that I had anxiety when I was driving to my mom's, who lives in Utica, and I had to keep pulling over in the car to make sure that the baby was breathing. He was fine. So the anxiety piece was there because I obviously was so stressed out, and anything that I was doing, typical normal day behaviors, walking to the bathroom with him in my hand, thinking I was going to run into the wall. So that's the anxiety piece. And the rage is just anger, like getting very frustrated and getting very annoyed with things. Not really for him, but just general things. Like if I were to try to find a top to a container, I squeezed a container one day and squeezed it as hard as I could, and that's the rage piece.
How long were you suffering with this until you found a way out of it? And then tell me about how you did eventually find your way.
So it started, I want to say, it was after my 8-week checkup, because I went to my 8-week checkup and I was fine. And then it took probably about 10 weeks, because it was shortly after the checkup, that I realized I'm struggling and need to get help. So I tried to go on to Better Health to find counseling, and I'm still on a wait list for counseling, actually. I'm very specific. I want someone who's experienced in postpartum. And it took about a couple of months after that. My boyfriend was like, you really should talk to someone. You really should make a podcast and talk about this. So I made a podcast and I made a YouTube channel, and I bring other moms on to talk about things that are taboo in pregnancy, postpartum, and depression, because I feel like it's not talked about, and that helps me to know I'm not alone, and I'm potentially helping other moms out there who may be struggling.
So your podcast, Moms with Moms, is the name of it.
Yes.
It's kind of been taking off a little bit. You have some monthly listeners, right?
I do.
What is the best part about doing the podcast, and what do you hope other people get out of it from tuning in or even being on the show with you?
So when I created it, it was an idea to create a network and a community. Moms offering mom support with moms on microphones. And I didn't realize that I would actually build a community. But what's also great is I've actually had people reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who dealt with this. And I was able to link up a couple of moms with local moms to kind of support each other, because there are things that I didn't deal with that another mom might have. So it's just it's been exactly what I wanted it to be. I didn't want to be an influencer. I wanted to create a network.
Courtney, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to listen to her podcast, Moms with Moms, you can find it on YouTube and Spotify.